The day my son told me I was too old to make decisions, I smiled and said nothing. He thought my silence meant defeat. Didn't. My name is Richard Miller, and I was 71 years old when my son decided I was no longer useful. For 40 years, I had owned a successful furniture company in Pennsylvania. I started it with one rented workshop, 2 old machines, and a small loan from my father. Over the years, that tiny workshop became a respected business with 3 locations and dozens of employees. I had built everything from nothing. My son, Daniel, joined the company after college. First, I was proud of him. I believed he would eventually take over the business. I taught him everything I knew: how to treat employees, how to negotiate honestly, how to keep promises, and most importantly, I taught him that family should never become a victim of greed. Somewhere along the way, Daniel forgot that lesson. He began making decisions without asking me. Then he started changing contracts and hiring his own accountants. Whenever I questioned him, he would smile and say, "Dad, you're getting older. Business isn't the same anymore." I tried to ignore it. Then one Monday morning, Daniel walked into my office carrying a thick folder. "We need to make some changes," he said. I looked up. "What kind of changes?" He placed the folder on my desk. "I think you should retire." I stared at him. "Retire? You've done enough. It's time for me to take over." I opened the folder. Inside was an agreement transferring most of my company shares to Daniel. I slowly looked up. "Who prepared this?" "Our attorney." "And you thought I would simply sign it?" Daniel sighed. "Dad, don't make this difficult." I closed the folder. "You're asking me to give you control of everything I spent 40 years building. I'm asking you to trust your son." I looked into his eyes. For a moment, I remembered the little boy who used to sit beside me in the workshop. Then I saw the man standing in front of me, a man who wanted everything I had built. I pushed the folder back toward him. No, his expression immediately changed. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You can't run this company forever." "I know. Then why are you fighting me?" I smiled. "I'm not fighting you." Daniel picked up the folder and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned around. "You'll regret this." I watched him leave. Then I opened the bottom drawer of my desk. Inside was a folder I had kept hidden for almost 3 years. On the front, I had written one sentence: "If Daniel ever tries to take everything, he will discover that I already know the truth." I opened the folder. The first document was a bank statement. The second was a secret company registration. And the third was a photograph of Daniel meeting someone he had sworn he had never met. That was when I realized my son wasn't simply trying to take over my company. He was hiding something much bigger. For the next few days, I said nothing to Daniel. I went to work as usual, but I stopped questioning his decisions. That seemed to make him comfortable. He began acting as if the company already belonged to him. He changed office schedules, replaced 2 managers, and started moving money between accounts. I watched everything quietly. 3 years earlier, I had noticed unusual payments leaving the company. At first, I thought they were accounting mistakes. Then I discovered the payments were going to a company called Miller Holdings. The name didn't mean much to me at first. Then I discovered who owned it: Daniel. He had created the company without telling me. Money from our furniture business was being transferred there every month. The amounts weren't small. Thousands of dollars were disappearing. I hired a private accountant to investigate. What we discovered was worse than I expected. Daniel had been using company money to purchase properties under Miller Holdings. In other words, he wasn't preparing to take over my company. He had been quietly stealing pieces of it. I confronted him once. He denied everything. "Dad, you're imagining things." I didn't argue. Instead, I asked him one question: "Do you trust me?" He smiled. "Of course." That answer told me everything. From that day forward, I stopped warning him. I started preparing. I created a separate legal holding company and transferred several important assets into it: the warehouse, 2 commercial properties, several valuable contracts. Daniel never noticed. He thought the company belonged entirely to him. Then one afternoon, he walked into my office again. Dad, I need you to sign something. I looked at the document. What is it? Just a business restructuring. I smiled. You're becoming very good at making things sound harmless. He laughed. You worry too much. I signed the first page. Daniel looked surprised. That's it. Yes. He picked up the docu, meant and left. The moment he was gone, I called my lawyer. It's time. My lawyer understood immediately. He had been waiting for that call. Are you sure? I looked through the office window at my employees. I've given my son enough chances. That evening, I received an email from Daniel. He wrote that the company would soon be under his complete control. I read the message twice. Then I smiled. He had no idea that his biggest mistake had already been made. He had put everything in writing. And now I had the proof I needed. Section 3. The following Monday, Daniel called an emergency meeting with the company's senior managers. I wasn't invited. That was fine. I already knew what he planned to do. He wanted to announce that he was taking full control of the company. Instead, something else happened. My lawyer walked into the meeting. Daniel looked shocked. What are you doing here? My lawyer placed a folder on the table. I'm here on behalf of Richard Miller. Daniel's face changed. What does my father want? My lawyer opened the folder. Your father wants you to stop transferring company funds into Miller Holdings. Daniel stood up. You have no right to accuse me. We have bank records. He placed several statements on the table. Every transfer was listed. Every date. Every amount. Every payment connected to Daniel's private company. The room became silent. Daniel looked at the managers. This is a misunderstanding. One of them asked quietly, Daniel, is this true? He didn't answer. My lawyer continued. There's more. He placed copies of property documents on the table. The warehouse and 2 commercial properties were never transferred to Daniel. Daniel stared at him. What? They belong to Richard Miller's holding company. Daniel's face went pale. He finally understood. The company he thought he was taking over did not own the assets he had been counting on. He grabbed the documents. This can't be true. It is. Then my lawyer handed him one final document. It was the email Daniel had sent me, the one where he had written that the company would soon be under his complete control. Daniel looked at the screen. He suddenly understood how badly he had underestimated me. That evening he came to my house. He didn't knock. He walked straight into the living room. Dad, what did you do? I looked at him calmly. I protected what I built. You made me look like a criminal. I didn't make you do anything. He became angry. Why? Oh, you're my father. And you're my son. Then why are you doing this to me? I stood up slowly. Because you stopped acting like my son when you decided to steal from me. He became silent. For the first time, I saw regret in his eyes. But I wasn't finished. I handed him another envelope. He opened it. Inside was a formal notice removing him from the company's management. His hands began to shake. You're firing me? No. I looked him directly in the eyes. I'm stopping you from destroying everything your family built. Daniel lowered his head. Then he whispered something I never expected to hear. Dad, please give me one more chance. I stared at him, and for the first time I wasn't sure whether I wanted revenge or forgiveness. I didn't answer Daniel immediately. I remembered him as a little boy, sitting beside me in the workshop and asking when he would own the company. I had promised him that one day, everything I built would be his, but I never promised that he could steal it. Why should I give you another chance? I asked. Daniel looked down. Because I made a mistake. You made mistakes for 3 years. He had no answer. I told him there was only one way forward. He would have to return every dollar taken from the company. He would have to step away from management, and he would have to cooperate fully with the investigation. Daniel agreed. For the first time, he stopped arguing. Months passed. The investigation confirmed everything. Daniel had transferred company money into his private business and used it to purchase properties. Some of the money was recovered. The rest became part of a repayment agreement. I could have taken him to court immediately, But I didn't. He was still my son. I wanted him to understand the damage he had caused, not simply punish him. One evening, Daniel came to my house again. He looked different. He wasn't wearing an expensive suit. He wasn't carrying contracts. He simply stood at my door with tears in his eyes. "Dad, I'm sorry." I nodded. "I know. I thought you were old." I smiled sadly. "I am old." Daniel looked at me, but I thought old meant weak. I shook my head. "That's where you were wrong." He sat down. "I don't know why I became like this. Greed doesn't happen overnight." He looked at the floor. "I was jealous." "Of what?" "Everything you built." I was silent. He continued. "I thought you would never let me have it." I looked at him. "I was going to give you everything." His eyes filled with tears. "All of it. All of it." "Then why?" "Because I wanted you to earn it." He nodded slowly. For the first time, I could see that he finally understood. I hadn't been trying to keep the company from him. I had been trying to teach him how to deserve it. Before he left, I gave him one final envelope. He opened it. Inside was a new agreement. It gave him a path back into the company. But this time, he would have to start from the bottom. No special treatment. No control. No shortcuts. He looked at me. "You're giving me another chance?" I smiled. "I'm giving you an opportunity. What happens if I fail?" I looked at him. "Then you will finally understand why I never gave you everything for free." He nodded. Then he hugged me. It was the first time in years that my son had hugged me without wanting something from me. A year later, Daniel was no longer the same man. He arrived at work early, stayed late, and slowly earned back the trust of the employees he had once ignored. He never asked for control again. He understood that trust had to be earned. One afternoon, I walked into the workshop and saw him helping one of the younger employees carry a heavy piece of furniture. I smiled. For the first time in years, I felt proud of my son again. Later that evening, Daniel came into my office. "Dad." "Yes." "I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me." I looked at him. "I almost did." "I know." He sat down across from me. "Do you still trust me?" I thought about the question. "Not completely." He nodded. "But you're getting there." He smiled. That was enough. I had spent years building my company. I thought my greatest achievement was turning a small workshop into a successful business. I was wrong. My greatest achievement was learning when to protect what I had built and when to give someone a second chance. My son had believed my age made me weak. He believed my silence meant I was afraid. He believed he could take everything from me without consequences. But he learned an important lesson. Never mistake patience for weakness. And never underestimate the person who built everything you're trying to steal. I never needed to destroy my son. I simply allowed the truth to catch up with him. That was my revenge. And in the end, it gave me something much better than revenge. It gave me my son back. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the Final Payback for more emotional family betrayal, revenge, karma, and justice stories. Because sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one who says nothing and waits for the truth to speak. And sometimes the final payback isn't destroying someone. It's making them realize exactly what they almost lost.